Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with Sandalina, and I'm your talk show host, Sandalina Sitar. Today's very special guest is Uneeb, who is a contestant on Hulu's reality TV dating show, Muslim Matchmaker, as well as a media critic and a podcast host for very successful podcast, Salaam Nerds. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. You have a great setup. I feel like I'm on Jimmy Fallon right now.
Thank you so much. That's the goal. That's the goal. All right, we're going to start off with our first segment for today's episode, which is the 5-minute life story. All right, Uneeb, tell us, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, so kind of grew up in the hood. And I lived there for most of my life.
Okay.
And then I went to college in Newark also. I went to NJIT. I studied electrical engineering.
Okay.
And from there, I got my first job, and I've been there ever since.
And was religion a core part of your upbringing?
Yeah, I would say so. I said religion was very important. Like, as a little kid, I remember going to the Ravi with my friends and stuff like that. So it was very, prominent at a young age.
And you talk about, on Muslim Matchmaking, you talk about your love for comics and TV. So when did that start?
Yeah, so that started pretty young because I had ADHD, so reading was a little difficult for me. So when I started reading comic books, it was like training wheels for like reading books.
Oh, I love that.
So I started reading comic books to kind of help me get into just reading in general. Every single one of like the superheroes were like into science and STEM, and I was like, I want to go into engineering. I want to be like these superheroes.
You talk about on this show being inspired by Tony Stark, right?
Yeah.
To go into electrical engineering.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And you're specifically in, you mentioned pre-construction?
So a pre-construction engineer is someone who basically designs the building before it's constructed.
How many siblings do you have?
So I have two younger siblings who are both married before I did.
Okay, you mentioned that on the show. You were like, there's a thing where they want to marry the kids in the order that they're born, typically, and you're like, don't wait up for me, guys. And it's a good thing they didn't, because everybody's on their own
timeline. That is true. Everyone's on their own timeline. I tell them, I was like, that was like, I nipped that in the bud real quick, and I told my parents, like, that's not happening, because if that was to happen, my brother still wouldn't be married.
You'd be like bottlenecking the whole family.
I know.
They're like, your parents don't have grandkids. It's all because of you. No, that's
bottleneck is the right term, because I am a train wreck.
No, I think you presented yourself very well on the show, by the way, and I'm excited to talk about it. Another thing you talked about on the show that I personally thought was a tearjerker. You talk about being in the tri-state area as a Muslim post 9/11, right?
Yeah.
And you were working on the Freedom Tower, the World Trade Center 1, and you were facing discrimination. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very special time for me because, like, it was very difficult. And not only, like, was I in the tri-state area when that happened, I literally saw the building fall down with my eyes.
Wait,
like,
what?
Yeah, like, basically, I was a freshman in college, and we all just, like, went to the top of the parking deck, and we all just watched it. So, like,
where did you go to college?
In Newark.
Okay,
so right
you could
across
just see
the river.
it from...
It's right across the river.
And you watched it with your own eyes?
I watched it go down with my own eyes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like not a lot of people can say that. And then a few years later, like, I am just this young kid. I just got out of college, probably have like less than a year under my belt working on engineering stuff.
Yeah.
And they put me on the Freedom Tower project. Did all the engineering for it.
Yeah.
And I was so happy for it, but that was in the office. Then I had to go and do the field work for it, where I had to go out to the building before they actually go up.
Yeah.
So that's where I experienced a lot of racism and Islamophobia. And it wasn't my company that did it. It was just other trades that were working in that building at the same time, right? My company was really, really great when it came to that. There was a news story happening at the time. Like, I don't know if people remember, but there was something called the Ground Zero Mosque. There was a mosque that was going to be built, and people turned it into this huge story. So I would walk into the towers, and I would see people spray paint, like, stuff about Muslims everywhere. And I would say, hey, what's going on with this? And they would just say, don't worry about it. It's going to get covered up. Be like, it's just fire paint. It's just like whatever. Yeah. And like you would see people just, say F Muslims, or like go back where you came from, or say stuff like no Ground Zero Mosque or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I had complained about it, and they were like, don't worry, it's just fire paint. We're going to paint over it anyways. When you're working on construction, the elevators inside the building don't work. So they set up these elevators outside the building, these external buildings, right? So that's how you would come up and down. So these elevator workers, they would have like these little plasters and these little posters and flyers everywhere about random stuff. And then I would see some that were about like Ground Zero Mosque, and they will say no Ground Zeros, no Muslims at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
And I had pointed that out to somebody, and they didn't take it very kindly. And what happened was the conductor who would control the elevators because it's not automated. It's a person who does it.
Yeah.
He would never stop for me. So if I'm there by myself, he
That's
wouldn't stop. He would
terrible.
skip the floor.
That's
always.
horrible.
For like during Ramadan, during the summer, I would have to go down like maybe 20 flights of stairs, maybe more. It was crazy. And what I learned to do was just like find a floor where there's people already waiting and just stay out of like eye view and then just like get in that way. So I did that for almost 3 months where they wouldn't stop for me. Yeah, it was very difficult. And the thing is, like, it's not that makes me sad. Like, it's not the Islamophobia that makes me sad or like emotional. It's like overcoming that and seeing the work at the end of it. I think that's what made me emotional. So like when I'm on the show, like, you know, I get a little emotional on it, but it's not because
Which is a beautiful moment, by the way. Thank you for sharing that with the world.
Yeah. But I went through something difficult and I came out of it the other side, and it's something I'm very proud of. Yeah. So like being proud of it is what made me emotional.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a beauty for that. And I think what as a consumer of the content, as a viewer, you said, I am going to rebuild what was broken, and I'm going to do it with my own bare hands. And it's you even share on the show that it's something you're excited to show your kids one day. That look, like dad helped make that, and you're sort of reversing the negative narrative. So I love that. Thank you for sharing on that show. Thank you for sharing on this show, because I think it's something we need to bring to the mainstream narrative, because there's so much Islamophobia and hatred to this day.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I know people that once they start wearing hijab, the world starts treating them differently, right? And it hasn't gone away. So thank you. We're gonna go ahead and move on to segment 2, which is the hot seat segment. So we're gonna do really quick rapid fire questions. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes.
Alrighty. How many first dates have you been on in your life?
I think there's too many to count. I really don't know.
In one sentence, you share on the show that you would rather jump out of a plane than court a girl sometimes, which is an extreme thing to say.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I do have a lot of anxiety.
Yeah,
so,
fair. Okay.
But like I definitely have like adrenaline junkie too. So
I love it. So you prefer the plane over the anxiety of a first date. Okay.
Sure.
Have you been ghosted?
Yes.
Have you ever ghosted somebody?
Yes, but not always on purpose. I have ADHD, so it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So like I forget we were talking.
Better question is, have you ever ghosted somebody after having met them in person?
No,
okay,
never.
That's an important distinction.
If we've gotten off the app, then I have not ghosted them.
Okay. What's one green flag you used to ignore, but now you chase?
I feel like whenever I meet a girl and she just like really loves her own family, I just feel like that's just someone who's going to get along with me and my family.
Have you ever lied to your parents about where you were going for love?
I wouldn't say it's lie. It's like, you know, you're trying to do two things. Maybe I am on a business trip.
It's a half truth. It's not a lie. It's a lie by omission, not a blatant lie.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Are you a mama's boy?
Me and my mom have a good mutual respect, but no, not really.
This is always a hard question for all the men watching. If your mom and your wife were at odds, whose side are you on?
You got to go with your wife. That's who you're living with.
Good answer. Good answer. Not everybody says that, by the way.
Really?
So, yeah.
No, my mom loves me. She'll get over it.
Yeah. I like that. Would you rather marry somebody who's perfect on paper, or somebody that gives you butterflies but absolutely zero stability?
I have a lot of anxiety, so I have to go on medication in order to deal with that person. So I'll just have to start taking pills.
Like, I'll take the butterflies with the anxiety.
I need the butterflies, but we'll just have a little cocktail of like pills and we'll be fine.
So you're 41 now. So what is your ideal timeline for marriage?
2 years ago.
After going on the show, do you feel like the matchmaking process worked for you?
Yes and no. I would say not in terms of how they match me, but I did learn some good skills from the matchmakers that I could apply to whoever I meet next.
Okay. I like that. Have you ever done anything haram for the seemingly right person?
It depends on like what you think is haram, but sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Last question. What's your halal to haram ratio?
Oh man, I would say 70 to 30%.
70-30.
Yeah.
Okay, what's in the 30 haram?
So like, listen, like, you know, we live in a capitalist society. Like, there's things that we just got to do, man. You got to pay a mortgage. You got to pay interest. Like, those things you can't. It's hard out here, man.
Okay,
you know?
But it's not like getting on OnlyFans to pay rent. You're just saying unethical capitalism contributions.
Yeah.
There we go. That's allowed.
Stuff like that you got to do. But I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm very, like, straight edge in terms of that.
We're moving on to the third segment of this episode. Instead of doing the shadows, we're going to try something a little bit different given the context. We're going to talk about the halal to haram ratio on this segment of the show. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh God.
On TV, you talk about the halal to haram ratio. What does that mean to you?
It's funny because the internet roasted us about this haram to halal ratio. And they're like, you're cherry picking the deen or you're watering down the deen. And I'm like, listen, the haram halal ratio has always existed. It just never had a name, right?
Yeah.
Like not everyone is the same level of like how religious they are.
Of course.
So it's basically like what can you tolerate in a relationship? Because not everyone's going to be on the same level as you.
Absolutely.
But like deal breakers are like drinking alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, which are haram.
Yeah.
But like if somebody's can tolerate that, then that's on them, right? So you don't want to set up people who have that different level. And we all do it. It's just the fact that like the word is like now commercialized.
Yeah, now it's a commercial, and now it's on our TVs.
Well, white people know it.
That's how you know. That's how you know. With you, I think it's really important, especially because I feel like in this world, especially in the modern day world, right? We're taking like all these people and these Eastern values and traditions, right? We're plopping them into the West, which is like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And everybody has kind of struck their own little balance. You know what I mean? And I think it's really important to have that sort of alignment and leveling, because ultimately, like, you need to raise your kids on a shared value system, right?
That's true.
And you need to have lifestyle compatibility and values compatibility, and like, you just can't match an alcoholic with a Hafiz. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to work.
No.
One thing that I struggle with is just finding that right balance in a partner. And I really wish that there was a better way to account for that in this like Muslim matchmaking process.
So like, do you do dating apps?
No, I really don't like swiping culture, to be honest.
Oh, well, Dilmil is a South Asian dating app that actually has a halal to haram ratio. Have you tried it?
I haven't tried Dilmil, no.
Let's try it right now. Let's do it live.
Let's do it. Are you kidding?
Let's do it live.
Nobody's ever asked me to do this on my show. Okay. Okay, fine. Why not?
All right, let's do it.
Nothing else has worked so far. So setting up my profile. All these fun introductory questions.
Sure.
The halal to haram ratio.
The Horatio.
The ratio is crazy. It's like, you add in your height, you add in your career, education, and you also add in your like religiousness level.
Yeah, I guess.
And then the algorithm like factors it in and then like finds you somebody based on that.
Yeah, so it'll find you somebody who, who takes you out for a samosa instead of a mimosa.
Samosa instead of mimosa. I love that.
This one says the devoted one. So that one, it says I'm trying to complete my deed and pray 5 times a day, but you don't know. That could be someone who's like super religious. That could be somebody who doesn't want you to watch TV shows. That would be the worst.
Or listen to music, right? Because a lot of people are against that in Islam.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough. Okay, the next one, this is... Okay, I like this one. Try to make my prayers, but no one's perfect. Let's make each other better.
I like that. I feel like most people would fit into that category.
Right. Okay, so this next one is learning and believing. Still exploring my faith and shaping my own path, learning while practicing. I think I like that one.
Yeah. They're a little confused, but they're on the right track.
They're on the right track. Yeah, I like that.
Everyone gets a little confused sometimes.
It's a little bit of confusion is warranted on their spirituality journey. I think so. This next one is, interesting. Party and prayer.
Ooh.
That's giving oxymoron.
Oh damn.
But we got to keep everybody. We got to keep everybody involved.
Listen,
that's how we keep the community together.
You know what it is? Sometimes people at a certain age are party and prayer, and then they work their way up to the other ones.
I believe, I respect. I just don't always practice no judgment. Please, beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. No judgment.
Fair.
And none of us.
We're like retro fitness, man. No judgment zone.
Exactly. And that's the thing about Islam that people don't. They tend to forget. Is that nobody can judge us except for God Almighty on our day of judgment. So why are we judging?
This one says, I'm a free spirit. I respect my religion and everyone's choice above all else.
Okay. You know what? I like the free spirit because I think that it's not implying halal or haram. It's just implying like a radical acceptance. Thank you, Dilmil, for creating this feature. This is really cool. And I think as a Muslim, it like really makes me feel seen. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I think there's, you know what it is? It's going to save a lot of people time because you're not going to go on dates and learn this on the date.
Absolutely.
And then have to spend $200 and be out, grocery money.
Thank you, Uneeb, for getting me on this app and helping me towards my future.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Happy swiping. We're going to go ahead and go to our last segment, which is the spotlight. The headline for today's episode is Media Critic Goes on Reality TV Dating Show Muslim Matchmaking. So what were you doing ages like 15 to 35 in those 20 years? Like, I'm just curious.
I actually have a TED Talk about this. You can probably look it up. But I did a TED Talk at NYU about work-life balance. But then my best friend, he passed away in a motorcycle accident.
Oh.
And it was very shocking to me, and it made me really appreciate how little time we have in this world.
Yeah.
So for the next 5 years, I just made a bunch of bucket lists, and I did everything. I've climbed Kilimanjaro, I ran with the bulls, I went to Antarctica. I did everything I've ever wanted to do in life, and I was just I'm just gonna live my best life. And if I find the person in the meantime, that's great. If not, at least I'm getting this stuff off my list. Yeah. And that's what I did. And the loss wasn't just mine, because my friend was such a great person. He used to do so much charity work. Okay. And I started doing a lot of charity work in his honor. So I volunteered at a suicide hotline for 5 years. Then I worked at a soup kitchen. And I feel like when the world loses a good person, it's up to the rest of us to pick up the slack.
So you're over the age of 40, you're emotionally available, and you have a heart of gold. When I was watching the show, I felt like I already knew you in person, but just watching it back, I was like, I feel like I saw so many more sides to you that were so wholesome, genuine, down to earth, and emotionally in tune. So why hadn't it worked out up until the point that you were on the show?
Number one, I was lazy, and I didn't really put a lot of effort into it in finding someone. The apps didn't work for me because, again, I would accidentally ghost people because I just wouldn't check them all the time. So I was I need someone to put somebody there in front of me in person in real life, right? I feel like that's good. I don't think I am a good texter. I'm a horrible texter.
Texting is terrible. We don't like texting.
I'm horrible. You know what? Because the thing is, it's the wait time in between. Yeah. It's just too much for me. Too much anxiety. Yeah. Back in the day, you guys might be a little young, but we had something called AIM, AOL Instant Messenger.
I know about AIM.
You have to sit next to you on your computer and talk to that person back to back. Yeah. Or else you have to put an away message on, right? So people know you're not available. That was my prime. That's when I could have found someone. Yeah. Now this waiting 3 hours to get a text, that's drives me crazy.
That's so funny. On the show you talk about, it was interesting. You mentioned this concept of, I have these nerdy interests, which by the way, I think is beautiful and wholesome. I found it very endearing. It's interesting because you talk about this concept of tolerance versus joining in, and was that something that you realized later in your life? Is that still your view today? Tolerance versus joining in with you?
Yeah. So for example, people think that they have to find a partner who is just like them and likes all the same things that they like. And I don't think that's necessary. I think if they can just tolerate you liking them, that's fine. If I have a girlfriend or a fiance or a wife, and she loves Pride and Prejudice, and she wants to go to a Pride and Prejudice book fair and stuff like that, I would love to go there with her because seeing her happy makes me happy, right?
Okay, so it's more than just tolerance, it's an embrace.
It's I don't have to be into it. I don't have to read the book, but if I'm there to just share in her happiness, I think that's enough.
Did you go on for love or followers?
I definitely went on for love.
You already have a good platform following.
I have a good platform following.
You don't need more.
Yeah, and listen, there's nothing wrong with finding your community and finding your people, right? Yeah. I was over 40, and I was I don't have a lot of time. I'll try anything.
I'll try all the channels. And you talk about the two on the show. You should have all the channels open at once. I agree. I'm the same way. I'm I'll do the arranged marriage process. I'll meet people in person. Wherever the luck comes from. I'm not going to stop anything that comes my way.
Matchmakers are expensive. They're really expensive.
Wait, do you have to pay?
No, we didn't have to pay.
No, not for the show, but
for matchmakers, you have to pay. You have to pay thousands of dollars.
Their off-show clients are paying them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how it was for Muslim Matchmaking with Seema on D2, and I heard the rates are pretty high.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that in my community they don't charge us because it's just a labor of love kind of thing.
Yeah.
But wow, okay, that's good to know. In terms of logistics, were you guys filming at your actual places? Because on The Bachelor, for example, they rent Airbnbs a lot. So were you guys filming at your real places?
For mine, we were, but I can't say that for everybody.
Okay. So Huda makes this comment about you being not shy, but anxious. How did you feel about that being said on national TV about you? Did it cause discomfort, or were you it's part of who I am?
No, look, I'm very open about my anxiety. I go to therapy for it. I don't care. I
love a man that goes to therapy. Yeah. Oh Lord, I hope you find a good wife. You deserve it.
My anxiousness is been there since childhood, and it was really great for me to put a word to it, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that that's what I had. I just knew that there were times where I just didn't feel like myself, and I didn't know why.
Yeah, that makes sense. Question: so you were matched with two women on the show. The first one was for y'all, who I actually also knew in person and met before you guys shot. Through her business, actually.
Yeah.
And her business is Chai Street, by the way. Great chai if you guys ever want to check it out on the East Coast. Did you and Friel really not know each other before?
No, we didn't.
So you seriously had never crossed paths?
No.
3 people I knew on the show in real life were you, Friel, and Bucky.
Yeah.
And so did you and Bucky know each other at all?
No,
before?
me and Bucky didn't know each other at all.
Oh, wow.
I went to a event in New York, like the TCF event, and afterwards we went to Gava House, and there was a friend of mine, his name is Fawaz, and he was like, "Hey, you two should talk. You guys both have something in common." And I was like, "Wait, what? What's in common?" And then we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, do you know something?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then we figured out we were both on the show.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So as a viewer, I know you and Friel in person. You guys are both very affable, kind, easy to get along with people.
Yeah.
But your date on TV seemed like really awkward. Like,
Yeah.
was it that awkward in real life, or was it exaggerated?
No, it was like a 4-hour date, and they only show you like 10 minutes of it.
Okay.
And like there wasn't that much silence. There wasn't that much awkwardness.
Yeah.
She wasn't slurping her like drink in front of me. Like
I heard that. I was like, there's no way that actually happened.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
no. I guess like, they have an idea of like how they wanted it to play out, and they just made it so that it made sense in a narrative form.
That's just how reality TV shows work. That is the name of the game. That is the formula for their clickbait. I get it. So I actually, I have a question on the way that things ended with Friel. So I know you guys are on good terms in the present and maybe even friends. But she shares the matchmakers that, he's just not for me, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're in parallel, you're kind of like, oh, went great. Like I brought her like chocolate covered or what was it? No, I brought her chocolate roses.
Yeah.
And I just, I had a good time. I'd like to see her again. Meanwhile, you're seeing the side by side of her basically rejecting you, right? How did that feel?
It was not great, but like I was like fine with it. It was really my friends and family who were like annoyed by it, and they were like mad, and I'm like, guys, it's just reality TV, man, relax, right? like she probably doesn't want to say these things, but she's probably being prompted to saying these things because like nobody wants to say bad things about people.
Of course,
like even me,
course.
like when I if I get like a Rista auntie and she sends me off to see somebody and things didn't work out, they're always like, why, what's wrong with her? Tell us. And you don't want to say things, but sometimes you just say things to get people off your back.
Because they need an answer.
They
ultimately need an answer, so they need their closure to as a matchmaker.
I don't hold it against her. It's a lot of pressure, and to do it on TV is a lot of pressure, so I don't hold that against her.
Did it spark any insecurities in you? Because there's a point where the matchmaker just point blank asked, like, are you just not attracted to him? And she's like, I don't think he's for me. Did it spark any insecurities, or you're just like,
this is what I look like. It is what it is, right? At this point.
You're so wholesome.
Like, no, I didn't really mind it. Even if she said that, like, oh, I'm not attracted to him physically, it wouldn't be the worst thing. If everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And not everybody can be everybody's cup of tea. Huda also mentioned on the show that you and Friel don't need to be friends.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of are on like good friendly terms, right?
I mean, we're acquaintances. Like, we're not like, hanging out all the time, right? That'd be weird. But like, I like to stay on good terms with everybody. I don't like to burn bridges.
Yeah, good. That's exactly how it should be.
But it did make me seem very desperate. I was just like, am I coming off desperate? Like, I just wanted to stay friends with you. It's fine. It's not like I been friend zoned and I'm trying to still hang out with this person, still pursue this person. It's not like that. It's
genuinely just like a good, like, hey, like nothing bad happened. You're a great human.
Listen, I have a lot of friends, and you like every now and then you need a favor from somebody and you need help from somebody, and like that's what friends are for.
Yeah. So your second date was with Farah, who it seems like an incredible individual as well. That date also felt a bit awkward at certain moments. Was it like that in real life?
No, that date wasn't awkward at all. I think that was the most fun date I've had on the show, and also like I've had like actual camera people tell me that's the best date we filmed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had people like in production be like, that's the best date we filmed so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had so much fun. We were laughing,
I
goofing
like
off.
that dynamic as well. Yeah. And I know that it started off on a high note, but then you guys kind of have the second date, and it switches to this group dynamic where you're sort of like, you're just being, you're doing your thing. You want to make everybody feel included. You see people, don't want them sitting alone, like, your friends at the event. And it just different perceptions of the reality. You're thinking one thing, she's one thing, and it turns into this like classic miscommunication trope, which is oftentimes a very sad demise to a lot of dynamics in the modern day.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what was going on in your mind during that group interaction?
Yeah. So in my mind, this is somebody that I had just met, right? Like people don't know that our second date was literally the same day as our first date. It wasn't like days apart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
basically, they flew us out to Atlanta, and we had our first date, and we were like, "Hey, listen, we're here in Atlanta. We got the rest of the night to ourselves. There's a thing happening for Palestine, and we were like, let's go support it."
Yes.
So
and you shared poetry.
Yeah, and I shared poetry.
Beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful.
So
you want to show your bracelet to the camera quick?
Yeah. I always wear this.
I love it.
So basically, I was like, let's go support, and then they had this thing where they're like, some people did not show up. If anybody wants to read something, please come up and read it. So I went and I read up something. I looked up something in my email. I read it. It was really cool experience, really fun. And then like people like saw me and they were like, they knew I was there. So like my friends were like sitting next to me and they came and I like invited them over to sit next to me.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I didn't know how comfortable she was being alone with me. So in my head, I was like, listen, if I invite people to join us, it'll be more halal and it'll make her feel more secure.
Oh,
but like, it actually did the opposite. It made her feel like I wasn't interested in her.
Right.
And then I just
wanted
wanted
to kind of dilute the dynamic.
It was a 50-50 shot.
You also shared on camera that you had shared things with her that you hadn't really shared with other people before. And I think that's like really beautiful that you're able to bring that dynamic to that point. One thing I do want to point out is the importance of the matchmakers in all of this, right? Because I really think that, you know, after that second date, which is really the same day as the first date, a lot of dynamics in the real world, they would have just never, it would have just gotten fizzled out, and that would have been that. So I think that, so how do you feel like the role of the matchmaker helped you throughout this process?
That's the one thing where I think the matchmakers help the most, because I think both me and Farah were like, let's cut and run. Like we were like, we got that bad vibe and we had that miscommunication and we were just like ready to run.
Yeah.
And the fact that they made us like talk to each other and they kind of like basically they had me tell them my story. They had Farah tell Huda her story, and they basically were like giving us feedback on it. And it really helped us see the person's perspective. So like, if it wasn't for that, me and Farah probably still wouldn't be friends. Like you know, she says nice things about me all the time. I say nice things about her all the time. She's such a wonderful person, and like, you know, right now she's helping a friend of mine with like med school stuff right now.
Oh, that's so
and
sweet.
Like, it's really really nice. And like the fact that like if it wasn't for the matchmakers, we probably would have just like cut ties and like that would have been. But now we have a really good friendship.
So. If you don't mind me asking, what happened after the show? Because so the show ends off on the note of you guys sort of like, you know, getting over that hump.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So like the 300 questions. So like they don't talk about it that much on the show, but one of the things with like, you know, 3 days, 3 months, and the 300 questions.
Right.
So we went through a bunch of the questions, and like, you know, while we were going through them, we were just realized like the age wasn't a factor, but we were on different timelines.
Beauty about the Muslim process, by the way, is that you don't do like the physical intimacy thing or anything.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like weird to part ways and like still know each other. It's like very much like a communal, like, hey, like nothing actually happened.
Yeah.
Like,
the most we did was give a high five, which I think we missed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw the high five. I was like, did you guys miss, or am I just like being really mean?
No, I think we missed. So we were still halal.
We were still halal. There you go. Gotta keep that halal gap.
Yeah.
So that's actually hilarious. I was really excited to see us finally be represented. And I think it's a feeling that a lot of people that watch this show might also relate with. It's nice to just see somebody on your screen that looks like you, that shares the same values as you, that has that sort of wholesome mentality that they're sharing with the world. But let's be honest, Muslim matchmaking didn't get the traction in mainstream media that we were hoping that it would and felt that it deserved. Why do you think that Muslim matchmaking flopped?
I think a lot of shows kind of lean into like, hey, we're going after this demographic. It's going to create its own buzz, so we don't have to do as much. I did a lot of stuff for Miss Marvel when it came out. Miss Marvel is one of the best shows on Disney Plus. I think it had the 99% Rotten Tomato score. I think it's the second most highest rated Marvel show in the MCU.
Wow.
But it is also the lowest viewership. So a lot of people do not show up for Muslims, and we're not very good at creating our own buzz. If you look at people like the Black community, the way they created buzz for Black Panther, they created their buzz and they made it so big that it was unavoidable. Yeah. And everyone wanted in on it, everybody wanted to watch it. The Muslim community doesn't really do that. And a lot of the times it's not our fault, because we've been burned so many times in the past that we come into every show thinking it's going to be really terrible and it's going to make us look worse. Yeah. Right. So we're hypercritical of ourselves. Yeah. And it makes us not want to promote stuff, and it makes us not want to support things because
Yeah.
we don't know how it'll end up, right?
Yeah.
Or where it'll end up. So I think that's one of the things that happens. It's hard.
I feel like the marketing fell really short, which kind
Yeah.
of coincides with what you were saying. And that's why I think there's a white space for shows like this, right?
Yeah.
For like Spotlight, is because I think there's a lack of cohesion and like the mainstream media when it
Yeah.
comes to the Muslim voice, right? We're starting to get good representation for South Asian voices, right? We have some good South Asians, but a lot of them are Indian, which is an amazing place to start. But I think that separate from race, there's also a value-driven community with religion, and I
Right.
think that like Muslims don't really have that, and I recognize that that's a challenge. I get it; it's an obstacle, but I still think, despite that, this is a show that shouldn't have just been for Muslims. It should have been a show for everybody. I think that there are very important values to be extracted from the way that we operate in terms of the marriage realm for the Western world. I think the
Yeah.
Western world actually needs to hear it the most,
Yeah.
if you ask me, because it's completely gone off the rails on the other side of the spectrum. I just really wish that this was done differently. I wish there was more influencer buzz. I wish there were red carpet events. I wish they got the Muslim A-listers to support this show.
If they wanted to, this show could have made it a completely different show. They could have edited things in a way to make it even more scandalous and go viral, but they
Yeah.
wanted to do good by the community.
Of course.
I think they
of
really
course.
did try. They were like, listen, there's so much bad stuff out there. We don't want to, do this like low-hanging fruit thing.
Yeah,
We-
100%.
So I think
100%.
they tried to make it as fair and balanced as possible, while
And
still being entertaining in a
Yeah.
narrative format.
I think that's a really good point. And my only hope as a viewer with constructive criticism is I really hope there's a second season. I mean, I'd love to see more of this. I'd love to see more contestants. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Tune back in next Sunday for the next full-length episode. And in the meantime, I'm your talk show host, Sandalina Sitar, signing off.